Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 19 of the holiday card series for 2021. Today's card has a tone-on-tone background that I'm going to stamp using a Turnabout stamp set from Concord and Ninth. I always have to remind myself how to work with those types of stamps whenever I want to use them because I don't use them all the time. So I'll walk you through how to use a Turnabout stamp in today's video. And then we're going to arrange kind of like some word die cuts into the shape of a tree for our grading. So let's get into it.
Like I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to be using a Turnabout stamp set from Concord and Ninth. This is the Tiny Trees Turnabout, and I'm going to walk you through how to use a Turnabout stamp set. This is the method I use, and I find that it works really well. Before we get to that, this is the cardstock I'm going to be using. This is the color Cilantro by Wildson. I love cilantro on my Mexican food. Do you guys like cilantro? My husband hates it. He thinks it's gross. Some people love it or hate it. Okay, so in your Turnabout stamp set, you get the stamp set and you also get the Turnabout guide. And on the guide, it says this side up at the very top, so you know exactly, which side you need to have it positioned on. And then you take the actual Turnabout section of the stamp set. The stamp set's great because it's got some additional trees and greetings and things like that. And you're going to position it perfectly over the guide. I like to start from the center, get the images lined up just right, and then kind of work from corner to corner in a clockwise fashion. So I'm starting up at that top right corner, making sure it's lined up really well, and then kind of letting the images fall in the other corners. The reason why you want to make sure it's on here very precise is that as you rotate your project and stamp, you don't want any mistakes in having images overlapping or things like that. You also need your Turnabout jig. So I'm not going to be using it for the full process today, but this is what you would do. You would position the guide with the stamp on it right over that X that's on the center of the jig. You get it in just the right position until it's just right, and then you close your MISTI, and that transfers the stamp to your MISTI. I'm going to peel up that Turnabout guide. And then my cardstock is cut to the exact size of this Turnabout jig, which is 6 inches. So I'm just going to take the Turnabout jig out and just work directly on the cardstock. But if you were using a smaller piece of cardstock, you could tape it temporarily to the jig, and then that's what you would be turning instead of the cardstock. So you're basically going to be stamping 4 times. So this is my very first stamping. I'm just putting it directly onto that cardstock. And I'm using the color Clover from Concord and Ninth, by the way. And then I'm going to rotate this 1 turn counterclockwise. On the jig, the corners are labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4 as a reminder. But you could also just remember, just turn once for each stamping. So I'm stamping in the same color all 4 times because I want a tone-on-tone background, but you could also change it up by using different colors of ink. I think it looks fantastic that way. So this is my second stamping, same color of ink, and I just rotated it once. So now I'm going to rotate it clockwise again. This is the 3rd stamping, and I'm going to ink up my stamp with that Clover ink again. Now, there's no rule that you have to stamp all 4 times. If you want to have some more gaps in your pattern, maybe you want to stamp a greeting in one of those gaps, you could just stamp, 2 or 3 times, or maybe just 1 time. It's completely up to you. All right, I'm going to press this down again, and then that's our 3rd stamping. Notice how the pattern is just starting to fill in. It looks really, really neat. This is our 4th and final stamping. I've turned my cardstock 1 rotation, clockwise, and then I'm stamping down. I did use my Stampin' Bug glider just to get a really good impression on a few of those. And then here we are. Here is my background stamp completely finished. While I've got my MISTI out, I'm going to be using the Mix and Match Holiday Sentiments from Concord and Ninth. They come with a die, and isn't that so cool? It cuts out all of those words. I'm stamping on some 5x7 solar white cardstock. The stamp itself is 4x6, so it gives me just enough room to handle the stamping when it's done and to die cut it. I'm going to use the magnet in my MISTI tool to hold that down, but this is a really big stamp. So even though I have the magnet holding down my paper, the paper is still going to come up with the stamp. The black ink I'm using today is a VersaFine Onyx Black, and I'm actually going to stamp this twice, and you'll see why after the very first stamping. Even though I use my Stampin' Bug glider, this stamp image is so solid. It's almost a solid black, and so it's just going to take multiple stampings to get a really, really good impression. So like I said, it lifts up the paper with it, so I'll peel the paper away. It does kind of have a chalkboard look to it. So if you wanted to have something with a little more texture, you could definitely just stamp it once. I'm going to stamp it again, and because I'm using my MISTI and I've got that cardstock nice and snug in that bottom corner, it's going to give me a perfect position to stamp twice. Pressing down with my fingers, making sure I get a really good impression. And there we go. It's pretty black. There's still a little bit of texture in some spots, but I don't mind it. I think it adds a little character. So here are my 2 pieces of stamping for my card today. I'm going to do some ink blending on the green piece. And because I don't want to deal with cleaning up my work surface, I'm just going to go ahead and do my ink blending on some grid paper. I've taped the grid paper to my work surface so it won't slide around. And I'm taking that Clover ink and an ink blending brush from Honeybee and just adding some darker green around the outer edges. It really transforms the color of the cardstock and makes it much more dramatic. After Clover, I use the color Midnight from Concord and Ninth as well, and that just intensifies that darker shade at the edge. If you wanted to go even more dramatic, you could use a black ink, but I think this Midnight kind of dark navy color works great. All right, so there is our ink blended background. We're going to do a little bit of die cutting now so that we can start arranging things on our card. So I'm using that die and I'm taping it in place. And then as I run it through my die cutting machine, I'm going to put a piece of grid paper over the top just because that black ink is a pigment ink. And even though it's dry to the touch, the pressure from the die cutting machine could transfer to my plate. And I'm glad I did it this way because look at that ink that transferred. So when I peel up the die, I'm left with just all these little squares of words. So I'm going to arrange it into a tree shape on my card. I couldn't help myself. I had to put some music like that in. I adhered all the words using some foam tape, and then I used a regular tape runner. This is Tombow Extreme Adhesive to adhere my card design to a card base. My card base today is made out of some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in the 110-pound weight. And even though I try to cut all my cardstock very precise, I did have a little bit of the white card base showing at the bottom of the card. So I used a ruler and a craft knife just to very gently cut off that itty bitty slice of white cardstock at the bottom. And I just go over it multiple times to get a really good cut. I'm almost done with my card at this point, but I just couldn't let it go without adding a little bit of dash lines around the edges. I think it really finishes off the card. It brings another little pop of white, so not just the words are white, but you could definitely just, not put the white dash line if that's not your thing. But as we all know, that is definitely my thing. So this is the finished card for day 19 of the holiday card series. I think it turned out really, really well.
That card turned out so much better than I even thought it would. I love the dramatic blend from the edges. It really punches it up a notch. I really love how that turned out. For today's holiday question, It's a little bit more on the fun side. If you could spend Christmas with any celebrity or famous person, like anyone throughout history, or let's say within the last 100 years, anyone who has lived within the last 100 years, who would you pick and why? For me, maybe it's because of my love of White Christmas and kind of the era, but I would find it fascinating to spend Christmas with Bing Crosby. He could just sing to me. He just sing to me all night with the fire going, you know. Yeah, I could get on board with that. If it was like a current day celebrity, Adele. I think I could, yeah. She could sing to me too. She could sing some Christmas carols to me too. Has Adele ever put out any Christmas songs? I don't know if she ever has. I don't even know if she's ever covered any. If she has, let me know down below, right, in the comments. And let me know in the comments who your celebrity or famous person from history or current day you would want to spend Christmas with. Thanks so much for watching today. I'll be back on Wednesday with day 20 of the holiday card series. I will be making it live here on YouTube, so come back at 6 p.m. Mountain Time for some live card making. See you guys then.